And welcome back to the workshop. A little diversion over the past couple of episodes as I've been making those few small changes to the equipment, but now we're back on to finishing the milling of the stock. And if you remember from a couple of videos ago, I had cut down the planking for the infill in the doors and the sides of the cupboards to an approximate size, so I've got to take that down now to finished size, which is going to be 15mm in thickness. And as soon as I've done that, I can start then cutting the pieces to more approximate sizing so that I can then start piecing things together and working out where things are going to go. So from those 3 episodes ago, I've left the thicknesser set to where I want it, and because I made that one test pass, if you remember, and so that's the current thickness that the thicknesser is set to. Put the other 2 pieces through and then I can carry on taking it all down to 15mm. And that's taken everything down to 16 on that piece, so I'm getting close now. And there we go. Finished size is spot on 15mm. That's excellent. So those will be for the fill on the doors and the side panels, and to be honest, I probably underestimated how much actual timber I need, so I'm just going to have to play that one by ear and might have to mill a little bit extra stock later on. But anyway, let's get the thicknesser packed away and then I can start marking out where I actually want to cut things. Now I just finished putting the planer away and tidying up after myself when I realised, no, I haven't quite finished with the milling yet, because all of the pieces that I've previously milled on the initial side and edge, and then just now as I've put them through the thicknesser, they all have a 4th side that needs the sawn edge taking off. So I've set the planer back up and I'm just going to take all of the edges off. Then I can accurately measure, because I realised that if I start sawing these down the middle to make 2-inch wide pieces, that's fine, but when I then take the sawn unfinished edge off, one piece is going to be smaller than t'other. So that's my thinking. Let's crack on. we go, that's most of it done. You'll have noticed I only put this through once because this one is so rotten on some of the edging that I'm just going to whip that down on the bandsaw and then I can finish it off on the planer. So that's all of the milling done. I'm thinking for the moment, because I'm just thinking through the process. I've just picked up the first piece that comes to hand. I'm not sure what is going to come out of this piece as yet, but this is my thinking. I'm going to be splitting a lot of these down into either 50mm or 100mm widths. Now, I'm just looking through the cutting list and I only have two pieces that are actually 100mm wide, and those are going to be for the long rails in the cupboards at the top back. They are the ones that are actually going to be supporting the weight on the wall. Everything else is going to be 50mm wide for all of the other rails styles and things like that. Now, as I cut things down, and I'm going to be doing most of the cutting down, rip cutting on the bandsaw. That way I'm going to lose very little by way of cut. The kerf on the bandsaw is only about 1mm, whereas on the table saw it's about 2.5mm. So cut everything down, rip cut everything down, then I want everything equal by way of width. So that's when I'm thinking put everything through the thicknesser again, but edge on, and that way everything will be exactly the same width. So the bits that I will need the table saw for, it's going to be the easiest way to do things, I think, is to use the table saw with the mitre fence so that I can get a totally square cut to the blade and cut everything roughly to length. So for example, the uprights, they are all 30mm square. We've made sure of that, but all 8 of the uprights are going to be 740mm long. So that's going to be the easiest way to do it. Just measure off 740, put them all through together, and that way they will be equal. In fact, the finish size is 740. What I'm going to do is put them all through at about 760. 760, 770. That way it will give me a little bit of leeway, and anything extra I can then trim off on the bandsaw. And so I'm going to just measure out all of these uprights, then I can get those cut down as well. So the 8 pieces that I've already cut and dimensioned, what I'm going to do is just even up them all at this end so that I'm cutting like with like. Because all of the ends are very rough cut. So what I'm going to do is just square all of them off. Then I know exactly where I'm going to be working. There we go. So I'm going to mark from there 760. Now this nearest piece to the camera is actually 765 at the moment, so that takes that end right down to 760. As I say, 760 is going to be the long cut and the finish size will be 740, so that's going to be plenty. So if I mark this end here straight across, then that's going to be where I chop everything off on the saw. But what I'm going to do is just grab one of the clamps just so that I can hold everything together. And it doesn't move. There we go. So I've got two cuts, one at that end, one at this end, then everything will be roughly the same, and be interesting to see what I can do with these other bits as well. Right, how am I cutting these? Is it going to be the table saw? Good question. I'll decide that in a couple of minutes. So I've opted for cutting the rough lengths on the table saw, and I'm going to be doing that not only for the uprights but for all of the other pieces as well. So next time I'm going to be marking up and actually cutting out, and yes, then I can start cutting, rip cutting down for widths, and then I can put everything through the thicknesser for final width. So everything's looking good, and thanks for coming along with me on this journey. And I know this is going to be the most ambitious, or the largest project that I've done, and the most ambitious I think so far was the sewing cabinet, but we've got a lot of things in common with this. There's going to be a lot more mortise and tenon joiners on this one, and going to be a lot more components that I'm going to have to be careful that I label carefully. And just thinking, by the way, about some of the cutting lists, I'd originally thought that I was going to go for 25 by 50s, but you'll have remembered that all of the stock is now down to 20mm. That doesn't matter so much. It's not the thickness that is going to be the determining thing for all of the dimensions. That is the length and the width, and so get everything to 50mm and everything will still work out quite nicely. Even if I'm a little bit below that, if at times I might have to drop it down to 45mm. So long as I know what the final dimension is, I can work with that. So as I say, thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you on the next episode.